Good evening and welcome to Alden High School, or should I say welcome back, whatever the case may be. We are delighted to host you this evening for the class of 2025 inductions to the Distinguished Alumni Wall of Honor. My name is Bill McCowan, and for the past 20 plus years, it has been my pleasure to serve this community as the high school assistant principal. Joining me on stage here this evening is my partner, Mr. Patrick Quast, who is in his first year as the high school principal. As representatives of the Alden Administrators Association, it is our pleasure to host this program this evening. At this time, I would ask that you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Over the last 8 years, Mr. Ryan, our former high school principal, and I, with the support of our superintendent, Mr. Stoltman, embarked on this journey to honor distinguished alumni from this great community. It has been a learning process for sure, but a wonderful one at that. In a very short period of time, we have encountered so many amazing people that represent the history and fabric of Alden, New York. Tonight, it is our privilege to present our 4th class of inductees, honoring the lives and accomplishments of 2 incredible human beings from our Alden High School family. Before we move further into the program, to share a few thoughts of his own, please welcome to the podium Superintendent of School, Mr. Adam Stoltman.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Patrick. I hope either prior to this event or just after it, you have an opportunity to walk around the facilities and see how things have so drastically changed over the course of a short 20 or 30 years. It's really amazing. I can't believe the changes that we've been able to make here as a community and as a school district over my short term as a superintendent here about a dozen or so years. It's really impressive and speaks volumes to this incredible community that we all grew up in. So good evening, everyone, and welcome to Alden High School's Wilson R. Conrad Auditorium for our 2025 Distinguished Alumni Award Ceremony. Tonight, as Bill alluded to, we celebrate 2 remarkable individuals who once walked these halls. Dr. Corey Simon, class of 1995, and retired Lieutenant Colonel Benjamin Kennedy, class of 1992. Dr. Simon studied exercise science and physical therapy at the University of Buffalo, and his career has taken him from healthcare leadership in Buffalo to earning a PhD at the University of Florida, and now Duke University. As an associate professor and senior fellow at the Center of Aging, he researches biomarkers that predict pain and surgical recovery, securing $18 million in funding, publishing accessibly, and earning awards such as the NIH, NIA, Beeson Emerging Leaders in Aging Award, and the APTA Rose Award. Corey also teaches, leads research initiatives, serves on advisory boards, and advocates on Capitol Hill. He and his wife Maria have 2 daughters and a household full of pets that they remain enthusiastic, and they all remain enthusiastic sports fans. And I understand Mr. McCowan has maybe an e-visit or a web visit with you.
We're all set up.
Yeah. If you could have been here the last 2 weeks watching them, thank you. Lieutenant Colonel Kennedy enlisted in the U.S. Air Force shortly after graduating in 1992, beginning as a jet engine mechanic before earning a degree from Buffalo State College and becoming a flight engineer. In 2002, he trained as a pilot, rising to squadron commander and director of operations over a distinguished 31-year career, logging thousands of flights and hours and mentoring new pilots. He also led the Niagara Falls Air Show for 15 years and flew missions in Iraq, Afghanistan, and South America. Ben retired in 2023 and now pilots for Delta Airlines. He's a proud father of 2 daughters. Though their journeys after Alden High School took incredibly different paths, Dr. Simon and retired Lieutenant Colonel Kennedy exemplified dedication, perseverance, and service to others. Their achievements not only bring pride to their families, their professions, but also their alma mater. Please join me in giving a warm welcome and round of applause to our 2025 distinguished alumni.
All right, at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Quast.
How's everyone doing? Thank you for coming. Appreciate you that you're here. To commence with the induction of our first honoree tonight, I'm going to ask you to direct your attention to this giant screen up here.
Corey Simon graduated from Alden High School in 1995. He played trumpet in the band and was also a member of the football team. Corey attended UB to study exercise science and physical therapy. He met a nursing student named Maria, and shortly after graduation, the couple married. They relocated to Cleveland to work at Metro Health Medical Center, but returned to Buffalo 2 years later after the birth of their first child. Subsequently, after the birth of their second child, the family relocated 1,100 miles to Gainesville. Corey attended the University of Florida to complete his PhD. In 2016, they joined Duke, and North Carolina became the place they called home. Maria and Corey have 2 daughters, Jaden, a high school senior with interest in early childhood education, and Kennedy, a nursing major and fullback for Queen's University of Charlotte women's soccer.
When I received a call from Mr. McCowan, notifying me that I was the recipient of this award, the first thought was shock. There's many people from our high school that have gone on to bigger and better things. Even in my class alone, the class of 1995, there are some of my classmates that are doing things that I've never done and never will be able to do. So I think shock was the first thing, surprise, obviously humility, and at the same time, excitement. I get to represent the institution in a different way. I get to come back and see how it's evolved. I get to see this blue field that I keep hearing about. I played on a grass one, so I think that's exciting. And I just get to celebrate and see, teachers that I haven't seen in a very long time. So, collectively, shock, surprise, humility, excitement, thankfulness. Really, really incredibly thankful.
Corey is Associate Professor in the Duke Department of Orthopedic Surgery and Senior Fellow in the Center for Aging. As a pain scientist, he studies genetic, blood, and energetic biomarkers that signal risk for high-impact pain and poor surgical recovery. Their goal is to identify high-risk patients earlier and personalize interventions to prevent downstream health complications.
My advice for students at Alden is keep an open mind. When I left, I was a film major. I was going to do digital cinematography. Toy Story had just come out, and I was going to move to Hollywood, and I was going to start a career in film. And now I'm in the scientific field. Couldn't be farther from the arts. And so things change, your priorities change, your opportunities change. And so just keep an open mind. And that isn't just on the occupational side, that's on, the social side. There's a lot of folks that don't have great memories or experiences in high school. And I just am here to tell you, things change, and it's only 4 years. You have 40, 50, 60 years ahead of you with some amazing experiences with people from all over the world, diverse populations. So understand that who you are in high school will change. Your circles of influence will change. And so keep an open mind.
Good evening, distinguished guests, faculty, alumni, students, and friends. It is both an honor and a privilege to stand before you tonight to introduce someone whose journey exemplifies innovation, perseverance, and the enduring spirit of Alden Central High School. Tonight, we celebrate a remarkable individual whose work has not only advanced his field, but also inspired countless students, colleagues, and loved ones. It is my distinct honor to introduce someone who truly embodies the very best of what it means to be a bulldog, Dr. Corey Simon. Growing up, I always saw Corey more as an older brother, more than a cousin. Our family spent summers together and shared memorable vacations. We even had nicknames for each other. Our side of the family was the Griswolds, and theirs were the Simpsons. With nicknames like those, you can imagine that things didn't always go according to plan. But no matter what chaos unfolded, Corey was always the one who stepped up and lended a hand. Dr. Simon shared a special bond with our grandfather, Gene, who would faithfully watch Sabres games by his side, creating memories that lasted well beyond the final buzzer. When Grandpa fell ill, Corey was there, not just as a family, but as an advocate. He made sure Grandpa received the best possible care and comfort. After his passing, Corey was driven more than grief. He was motivated by a vision for change. He refused to accept the limitations of existing pain management practices for the elderly, and he committed himself to making things better. Today, Dr. Simon is not only a nationally recognized professional and innovative researcher, but a leader, a scholar, and a compassionate servant to his community. His journey from the very halls of from these very halls to the front lines of medical advancement shows what's possible when talent is guided by purpose. Whether he's breaking new ground in medicine, raising a beautiful family, or sharing a hobby with a loved one, Corey brings excellence, empathy, and integrity to everything he does. He is not only admired by his accomplishments, but respected for the values that he holds and the lives he continues to touch. What makes Dr. Simon truly distinguished is not his resume, it's his impact. He has dedicated his life to improving the care for the elderly, pushing the boundaries of medical research, and creating opportunity for others. He exemplifies what our alumni can aspire to be: grounded in knowledge, driven by purpose, and guided by a deep sense of service. Please join me in welcoming and celebrating the distinguished 2025 alumnus of Alden Central High School, Dr. Corey Simon.
First, Mary, that was awesome. Well done all the way across the board. Amazing job. And if you will now, please join me with a round of applause in welcoming Corey Simon to the podium to receive his award.
The last time I was on the stage, I didn't need greeters. Oh, you had to bring up Ish. Yeah. Good evening. I'd like to start off with a bit of a crazy story, and that's that about 10 years ago, my wife Maria and I had taken a trip to Tampa Bay, see a Sabres game. They won that night. That's not the crazy part of the story. Afterwards, we decided to go to the Marriott Lounge and celebrate, and there's where I met Lieutenant Colonel Kennedy. We had never met before. Adam was in my class, we played football together, but he and I had never met, and so it's really wild to me that we're back together again. So congratulations, Lieutenant Colonel Kennedy. Much deserved. So I have many to thank, but first and foremost, my dear cousin, Mary Law. Overly generous introduction, and Mary was the one who nominated me, unbeknownst to me, about a year ago. So that's why I'm standing here today. And I want to tell you a little bit about Mary, because Mary's amazing. 99 Alden grad, U.S. Army veteran, heavy wheel mechanic, didn't mess around, and current teacher's aide here at Alden. So from the bottom of my heart, Mary, thank you very much. I'd also like to thank those affiliated with this award. Alden High School administrative staff, the Distinguished Alumni's Nominating Committee, the Alden Administrators Association, Vice Principal McCown, Principal Quas, sorry, just met him, so, Superintendent Stolman, Ms. Valentine in the food service, Mr. Al Turton, Mr. Arthur Hegginkin, the supremely talented student employees at Bulldog Dog Manufacturing. I've never seen anything like this in my life. It's just incredible what you've created here. And Mr. Colin Debkowski and the entire Wax Network for that awesome video tribute, and especially Campbell Jones, who I got to work with on that. So thank you, Campbell. You did an amazing job. And to my lifelong Alden friends, many in attendance today, Kate Wedge, Misty Long, Tammy Jo Kolniszewski, Jeff Long, Paul Kolniszewski. We're still close after 30 years, which is insane, and it means the world to me. To my wonderful relatives, all in attendance, and if I forget anybody, it's just because I can't see. Maxine Anstead, Dolly and Dennis Mayer, Janice Mayer, Zoe Simon, Mary's daughter, Megan Stabline, who is a 2025 Alden graduate and future distinguished alumni. To my amazing parents, Sandy and Randy, who should receive sainthood for raising 3 boys that were like we were. And to my brothers, Luke and Scott, who I also want to speak out about. Luke is a 97 Alden grad, U.S. Army Cavalry, OEF combat vet, and the English department chair at Attica High School for the last 14 years. Scott is a 98 Alden grad, retired U.S. Navy EOD, and a current aerospace mechanic contracted by the DoD, so I have no idea what he does except he sends me pictures of rockets. So, and finally to my girls. You've endured relocations, 4 different states, 8 different homes, countless school districts. I am not here today without your love, support, and sacrifice. You will forever be my biggest blessing and achievement I'm most proud of. So, I mentioned the video shock over this award, and it was for 2 reasons. One, as I mentioned, the sheer number of Alden alum who I consider exceedingly more well-deserved than I am. And there are many across business, healthcare, academics, and the arts, but the group that I want to highlight are those serving in our communities and country in uniform. Like Lieutenant Colonel Kennedy, Mary and my brothers, Officer Gregory Kent, who many of you know. There's past distinguished alumni Brett Gornowitz, Nicholas Smith, Eunice Luck Byers, and her husband Mark. These individuals are highly distinguished through their valor and sacrifice, and civilians such as I cannot comprehend or ever achieve that. So the best that I can do is to show my respect, and it's in a world where we throw a lot of words around that don't mean anything. So it's not through words, it's through actions, and it's by serving those who serve. As Mary alluded to, my grandfather, Gene, was the reason that I really got into pain research. He had seen some pretty terrible healthcare providers, and because of that, he was giving terrible care. And so, but it starts really with my respect for him as an individual, going back to his service in World War II. My grandma, Dorothy, is a World War II veteran. My uncle Dennis, Bucko as we call him, U.S. Navy veteran, launched sluffs, intruders, prowlers, F-14s, and I hear a Volkswagen at some point off the deck of the USS Nimitz. And my dad, a U.S. Army veteran who ran the Mars radio network east of Saigon in Vietnam. Several uncles, great uncles, I mentioned my grandparents. These are the reasons why I study and manage pain, and why I work in the VA now. Respect by serving those who serve. The second area, or reason for my shock at this award, is that I have the full story. My entire life's body of work, and admittedly, it is not all distinguished. You know, I had a vice principal runner here. He and I said the last time I saw him, I think it was in his office for fighting. So, you know, it's not all distinguished. And thank you, by the way, for coming, Vice Principal. It really means a lot. Friends and family here will attest to my many stumbles along the way. Failed classes, lost jobs, missed deadlines, physical and mental pain, hurt feelings, burnt bridges, disappointment, self-sabotage, dark times that many in the audience can also attest to. But I emphasize my own limitations for a reason, and it's really for the current students, my own kids. We live in a time where interactions are predominantly digital, and it creates this false veneer of perfection, almost like keeping up with the Joneses. And we feel constantly judged, unable to fail, prisoners of our own cultural expectations. And I see this with my own students. My graduate students over the past 5 years, getting an A is all they care about. Anything less than an A is not an option. And the issue is when they do get less than an A, they crumble. No resilience whatsoever, and it's scary. You need to make mistakes to get to the right answer. You need to fail to succeed. But the problem is that even our lens of what succeeding is a little bit warped. And I tell you emphatically, it's not about the traditional metrics of success. It's not wealth. It's not ascending ladders of occupational and social hierarchy. These are not strong correlates of happiness, at least not long term. Success should equate to happiness and contentment. And the good news is, over the last 70 years, there's a lot of research to show what brings happiness. And so I'm going to give you 6 very quickly. Strong, supportive, and trusting relationships, physical and mental health, stable middle-class income, and that's an important one. There's diminishing returns the more you make. Think more money, more problems type of thing. Autonomy, freedom to choose, have control. Psychological richness, curiosity, bringing life experiences that are equally challenging but also satisfying. And then finally, and I think not most important, but very, very important, is finding purpose, finding meaning. And if you look at the criteria that Lieutenant Colonel and I were judged against, excellence in our chosen fields, you won't see doctor, attorney, CEO listed. You just see excellence in their chosen fields. It means anybody. Outstanding service to community or profession, significant contributions to humanity. And if you look at it, these are outcomes. In the long term, they depend on finding happiness, not wealth and occupational and social hierarchy. The cool thing too is that these also, by being distinguished, it's a wonderful feedback loop. When you serve the community and you contribute to humanity, you build stronger relationships. You boost your mental health. You enhance psychological richness, and you find meaning and purpose. So my cognitive transition from shock and perhaps a little bit of imposter syndrome to excitement and thankfulness over this award was because I looked at the bigger picture. I am blessed to have a strong and supportive and trusting relationships with my friends and family, as you see here. I learned through very, very much lots of failure we don't have time for, to prioritize physical and mental health over fleeting pleasure fixes and dopamine rushes. And long ago, Miss Jean Weisbeck, who's probably my favorite teacher of all time and taught here at Alden, she taught me to remain curious and to challenge conventional thought, and that advice has facilitated endless psychological richness in my own field of science. And then striving to help people with chronic pain along with being a good husband and father, that's my purpose, that is my meaning. Being fortunate to attain factors of happiness are why I am happy, and subsequently why I think I am successful regardless of what my resume or CV says. I also attribute those factors of why I may have just eked over the bar for this prestigious award. So I hope high school students will find that same happiness and success in their future. I thank you for your time and support, Go Bulldogs.
We have one more round of applause for Corey Simon. Excellent job. Congratulations. He's up, not me.
At this time, let's start again. Now for the induction of our second honoree this evening, please turn your attention once again to the video screen.
Hi, I'm Ben Canetti. I graduated Alden High School in 1992, and I'm here to talk about this year's recipient. I was awarded one of the Distinguished Alumni Awards.
Ben Canetti is a proud veteran and a Delta Airlines pilot. He enlisted in the U.S. Air Force right after graduation, dedicating several years to serving our country. His inspiring journey embodies dedication, courage, and commitment for what he stands for.
So to be honest, I wasn't a great student. It wasn't that I was a great student. I did not like high school, and there's no way in hell I was going to college. So my father's in the military. A lot of my family's in the military, so I figured that was the best bet. And I was just always in awe of people that served before me. So the number one thing the Air Force taught me was not flying airplanes, was not fixing airplanes. It was to grow up. So they give you responsibility. As you mature, you get more and more responsibility. And it taught me to become a leader. It taught me to, I never want to inspire others, but then I was inspired by some of my predecessors. So that became one of the biggest focuses in my career. And I was a kid without any direction whatsoever. And I found it in the military. I found it, and not just the military, just part of growing up, that I never expected to be where I am today. Now I fly for Delta Airlines. As a matter of fact, I just got home this morning from flying the Arizona Diamondbacks baseball team home from their game, and then I have to leave tomorrow. I'm flying the Buffalo Bills to go play the New York Jets this weekend. It's probably my time overseas. We did some really cool things with the C-130 with that mission, from flying special ops missions down in South America, counter-drug with the Navy SEALs. I did 7 deployments to the Middle East, Iraq, and Afghanistan. Not proud of and proud at the same time is I was the guy that never said no. Anytime we had the opportunity to go overseas for months at a time, I always raised my hand.
Ben credits his success to the discipline and focus he developed during his years of service. He says discipline and priorities make all the difference. I wasn't the best student at Alden High School, but I learned that setting clear goals and sticking to them is essential.
The entire career was a challenge. And it's not just the career in of itself. Pilot training is hard. It's really hard. The focus. So whether you're a good student or weren't, you're going to find out when you get there. And I had to study, and I had to study hard. And it's every day you want to quit because it's so difficult and it beats you down. And then then as you grow older, and it's true of any career, it's just trying to manage family, friends, and career at the same time. And it was very, very difficult.
He has greatly impacted all the lives he has touched. He inspires all those around him, changing many lives along the way.
Hi, I'm Amy Canetti, and I've known Ben for about 30 years. He is the father of our 2 daughters, Taylor and Cameron. I'd want Ben to be remembered as a leader, a role model, and a father who leads by example. He has the incredible gift for words, whether he's speaking on live TV, a eulogy, unfortunately too many of these, or simply guiding his daughters or other young people through important choices. No matter the audience, he speaks from experiences and, more importantly, from his heart.
So my name is Elizabeth Canfield. I have known Ben Canetti for, 14 years now. When I joined the unit at Niagara Falls, as a loadmaster, he was a C-130 pilot. So we flew together for a very long time. My favorite memories, so I have a ton of memories with Ben. We traveled all over the world together. But my favorite memory, and it kind of spans 6 months or so, was working on the 2018 air show with him. He kind of took me under his wing, asked me if I wanted to help do the static display coordination. But he also, like I said, took me under his wing, and I got to meet all sorts of people in the airshow industry. He created this huge network for me of contacts, basically just showed me the way of how to create an airshow, and it was, in my opinion, the best airshow that I have ever been to and that a lot of people have ever been to.
My name's Kevin Cully. I know Ben Canetti through the Air Force for probably the past 7 or 8 years. I had met him previously before interviewing for another crew position on the airplane up at Niagara Falls. He had sat in as a guest on that interview in his squadron. And the interview went pretty well, but afterwards he took me out and had a conversation with me and pretty much opened up the opportunity to become a pilot. He was already an established pilot at the squadron. I had never thought of that opportunity, but he brought that to light for me.
Okay, my name is Matt Moscato. I've known Ben since 9th grade, so that's about 35 years. So we've been best buddies ever since. So one of the things about Ben that really inspires me is that when Ben puts his mind to something, he's going to accomplish it. And he never changes who he is, though. You know, even though he's accomplished great things, he's achieved great things, you know, through the Air Force and being a pilot. He's still the same old Ben. We just hang out the same way and have the same friends and, you know, and bust on each other all the same. So I'm really proud of him, all he's accomplished.
Through all his paths, Ben has always followed the Bulldog way and is remarkable in everything he sets his mind to.
That's just who Ben is, driven, determined, and able to turn obstacles into something amazing.
Having a pretty good early start to my pilot career, and I'd give all the thanks to Ben.
You know, and he's somebody that I can always look to when I need something, and he's there for all his friends.
That are just kind of hotshots in the airshore industry, and I owe all of that to Ben.
Present Ben Kennedy for induction. Please welcome to the podium, Matt Moscato.
Last time I was up here, I didn't need readers either. So when I was first asked to do this, I actually thought it was a roast of Ben. And so I had a whole bunch of stories, and then I found out I couldn't tell half of them. So I'm going to work a few little stories in, and we got a lot of people here that are still good friends from the class of '92 that know a lot of these inside stories. So Ben Kennedy came here in 1988 as a freshman. He came from Annunciation, so of course he was going to be a very well-behaved Catholic boy, and everything was going to go fine here at school. And maybe it didn't always go that way. I did find a couple pictures with Ben actually smiling in it, so that's lucky for us. So when Ben came here, you know, we fast became friends. He joined different things like the Rifle Club. He was always a good shot. Now that's his normal face right there, if you see that there. He also had a bit of a wild side. So in the yearbook, he won the wildest, along with Alden, who is also here. And if you notice the Camaro had a lot of stories to it. It led to a lot of interesting things. Ben's shaking his head right now. I said this wasn't the roast, but we all know. You know, schools today have resource officers. The town here had, you know, its officers. And, you know, Ben always got to know them pretty well. So when Ben came here, actually, let me take a step back. I think if, you know, a student who really did well and is going to, you know, excel in school would take you on a tour of the school. He'd show you, like, all the classrooms that, you know, he did great things in. But if Ben took you on a tour of the school, he would take you to the places where he got into fights. Like the flagpole for the first one, or across in the town park, or by the stairwell. Or my favorite story was when I was coming out of lunch, and all of a sudden there was a big crowd. I'm like, I can't believe I missed another Ben fight. And we pushed our way just down the hallway, and Mr. Weeks, who was one of the great eccentric teachers this school has ever had, he was a guy who would bring his rifle in and do a demonstration back in the day. I guess you could bring rifles to school. And I pushed my way through the crowd, and I see Ben on the ground, and one of his foes on the ground, and Mr. Weeks laying on top of them with a headlock, and each one. And he looked up, and he said, "Will somebody get the goddamn principal?" Well, they didn't get the principal, but who they did get was the assistant principal, Mr. Bragg. And we're lucky lucky enough to get Mr. Brenner here, who knew Ben very, very well and saw the potential and knew that one day he'd be honored here for the Distinguished Alumni Award. And ironically, Ben was really only ever scared of two people, and they're both sitting in this room today. One was Mr. Brenner, and one was his father. And Ben, guess what? Both of them were wrestlers, so it makes sense. So as our senior year ended, we had the prom, and I may have magically removed something that was in Ben's hand, and this was the after prom get-together. And as school was approaching an end, we had graduation. And one of the things I wanted to do was find, the graduation pictures of Ben, but I looked and looked, and I could not find a single picture of Ben. He might have had to go to summer school, because Ben might have said, the last time I was on this stage was for graduation, but that's not the case. So that summer was a lot of fun. My barn was a place for parties and get-togethers, and sometimes Ben would leave straight there and go right to summer school. But of course, this did lead to great things. So Ben, this isn't just a roast. I'm leaving out a lot of the stories we can't tell here. But of course, Ben was, beloved, and he eventually, obviously, is going to be nominated for this. And we asked, who nominated you? And it was Miss Serta. And there were some funny reactions to that when I called friends and family. And your sister, you could just hear her voice, Ben. When I talked to your sister, this is what she said. Oh, Ben. And then she said, because Kathy was also a teacher for several years before she moved away with Kurt Hacker. And she said, there's always those kids who you feel sorry for and you take under your wing. I think that's how she felt towards Ben. And she actually said those words. And then she said, but of course he deserves this. So in '92, Ben enlisted into the Air Force, and he became a flight engine mechanic on the C-5 down in Dover. I got to go down there with some of our friends a couple times, and the shenanigans, let me tell you, still continued down there. And one of the great things about Ben is that he never said, I'm in the Air Force and now that's my life. Or I'm this and that's my life. He always brought in people and made his circles bigger. So, his Air Force friends and his home friends, combined together, and that's how he still lives today. He doesn't separate them, which is just awesome. But as far as Ben's service to country goes, it is really distinguished, and that is why we're here today. He was, like I said, a mechanic on the C-5. And then after he finished that time, he came back and enlisted at Buff State. And he also became a flight engineer. And so a flight engineer, they're responsible for all of the operations of an aircraft. So Ben had to know, what was going on with all the different parts of that plane and make sure that it could fly safely. And then once he got his degree and went to officer school, Ben became a pilot. So I don't know how many people can say they can fix the plane, they can know all the systems on the plane, and they can fly the plane. So, Ben really could do what most other pilots couldn't do. It's really impressive. And the training, that went into each one of these steps is just unbelievable and impressive. Other things about his time. So Ben had 9 wartime deployments. He's been to 63 countries. I bet if we added up everybody else in this room, all the different places and countries they've been, it would not come close to 63 countries. Now, that did not come without a cost. Ben was gone a lot of the time. And as much as Ben enjoyed and loved serving his country and being part of our efforts around the world, he would always say, I'm gonna miss home. That was always really hard for him to leave his family. So, it's a big sacrifice, and Ben, we do thank you for that, and I know how much, of a sacrifice that was. Some of the deployments which were already talked about, he had many missions into Iraq, Afghanistan, Djibouti, Africa. He told me, lots of adventures and about how he did his nighttime landings, which were really incredible, and maneuvers into hostile territory. Eventually, Ben rose to the rank of Lieutenant Colonel. He was at the Niagara Falls Air Reserve Base. He was the Director of Operations. He worked as an instructor pilot and also an evaluator pilot. But maybe what Ben is best known for around here is his air shows. And so Ben worked on the air shows for many years, and he was the director for 3 of the air shows. And I was at all of them, which is really cool, and got a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff. Ben was always very generous with that. When his friends would come, he would, take us behind the scenes. And, if you've ever been to the air show, you know what big events these are. Hundreds of thousands of people, over these several shows. But one of the great things about Ben, and we know this from high school, Ben liked to do things his own way. And in 2021, the base wasn't up for having another show. I guess the details, I don't know all of that, but they wanted to kind of shelve the show for that year. And Ben does not take no for an answer. So if you know Ben, that's not him. So what he decided to do was, I'm just going to make it a civilian air show, and I'm going to run it in front of the waterfront in Buffalo. And for 2 days, it was just a spectacular show. I think he ruffled some feathers because they just didn't want it to happen, and instead he put on such a show that it won the 2021 Civilian Air Show of the Year. And in that same vein, some of his other shows won Air Show of the Year, and Ben actually was awarded in Vegas the Air Show Director of the Year at least one time. But Ben doesn't only like to put on air shows, but he likes to make his own shows. So if you've ever been to a Bills game, I was there when he did one of these great flyovers and tipped his wing, which was really great. And then he's also done for the NASCAR, and you can see on the footage some of the NASCAR drivers talking and saying that was one of the greatest ever. And then there was a low-fly, flying plane over the Alden, Clarence area, and I watched the newscast of this, and I guess there was some kind of malfunction with the plane that had to make a direct beeline back to the airbase, according to, we still don't know who the pilot for that was, seriously. But then Ben went on, to fly the KC-135 air refueler, and did great things with that. And one of the fun things during COVID that Ben put together was the flyover. Did anybody here see that flyover or go out for that? See some people raise their hand. That was really cool. I actually went to Casanova Park myself, and there was hundreds of people out there, and just kind of cheering that on. I know you can't hear it from the ground, but there was literally hundreds of people cheering and waving as that went by, and that was a really cool thing to have the community come out for. So those are just a couple of the examples of what Ben has done, for the community, but of course, his service. Throughout all of the years. But I think the reason why Ben stayed in the service all those years was really his brothers and sisters in arms. And all the stories that they have, you can just see the fun and the joy and the tricks that they played on each other. So I've taken my Veterans Outreach group up to the base several times, and Ben has been real gracious and kind of given us the tour and the behind the scenes. And it's absolutely hilarious. Everywhere you go, you see those stickers of Ben, all plastered all over. And the kids are like, wait, isn't that Ben? Isn't that you? And I'm like, yeah, it is. So there you go. Another funny, so you see on the bottom left, That is it's called the Heritage Room, where the pilots get together and celebrate and debrief. And Ben helped create that, and he built a beautiful bar there with another one of our classmates, Jay Gadd. And then one of the times he was, I think at an air show, he ran into a furry convention, and a quote from Ben was, "I was curiously intrigued." And so that may be or may not be a picture of him too, just saying. Also, family is a huge part of it, like Ben alluded to, or like it was alluded to in the video. You know, military is a huge part of it. 2 of his brothers were in it, but, you know, maybe his biggest inspiration is his father, who was a Vietnam veteran. And, you know, once you start talking to Ben and saying anything about, you know, a war hero or anything, every time Ben's like, "No, my dad's a war hero." And I don't know if you ever told your dad that, but I'm telling you right now, Ben has said that about you 100 times to me. I know your mom, for sure, was very, very proud of you. And, you know, to mention also, Daniel was always very proud of your service as well, Ben. So it's great, and I just love how you're always all about your 2 daughters. And then another great thing about Ben is his keeping in touch with his former classmates. And here we see some of the people, you know, from '92. They're sitting in here right now. And we've had lots of celebrations, and we'll continue to do that. Nowadays, you see the picture here, Ben's way into boating, and that was a picture of him telling me how he felt after I was asked him, "How are we going to get back?" Because we had actually, there was a fire on his boat, and we were drifting in the Niagara River. And at that point, he wasn't quite sure, so he told me what he thought of that. So, and today, what's Ben doing? Well, he's a pilot with Delta and still continuing to fly all over the world. But I think it speaks to where Ben's at today. And Ben really said, you know what? It's all about quality of life. So, you know what? Ben, he said he could take another position that might make even more money. But he said, you know what? To me, I'd rather have the flexibility and quality of life with my friends and family. And so that's where I think Ben is at today. And that is where you'll find Ben today. Out on the boat, loving life, you know. And, you know, he's just most relaxed there on the boat. And that's Ben for you. So, Ben, we love you. Thank you for all your service. You deserve it.
All right, at this time, it is my great pleasure to come to the podium and to present the Distinguished Alumni Award to Ben Kennedy. Please come forward.
Short and sweet because Matt talked way too much. When I first asked, first person I have to ask or thank is Matt. So I asked him to do this. I've been friends with. I look at all my classmates back there. Jeff, Keurig, Dewey, Russ Fitzgibbon, Amy, Ellen, where are the rest of that? But anyways, long time no see with some of you guys. But anyways, I asked Matt to do this, and I said, please don't make it a roast. And he said, I won't. And I trusted him, and I was wrong again. Well, sure as hell felt like a roast. I didn't prepare anything because, number one, I was up here less than a year ago doing the Veterans Keynote Speaker, and I spoke plenty enough in this auditorium. But I have to recognize Dr. Corey Simon. That's pretty impressive. I didn't know all that when you and I were drinking way too much at that. You left that part of the story out. When I ran into him in Tampa after that Sabres game, it was a small world kind of event, it was pretty cool, and he did leave that part out that we drank quite a bit this last time I seen him. So congratulations to you, Corey. Impressive career. Awesome. All I really want to say is that, going through high school, I was a bad student. It wasn't that I was a bad student, I just didn't care. I remember telling my guidance counselor, I don't know what I'm going to be, but I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to be fine. And the one that nominated me, Miss Surdick, I don't know why she did, but she believed in me. I would get in trouble all the time, and I spent way more time in Mr. Brenner's office, I think, than anybody in the school ever has. And Mr. Brennan, thank you for the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth chance at graduating here, even though it took me a little bit longer in my senior year. This was an awesome place to go to school. I don't know too many places nowadays that would give you that many chances. And then when I did join the military, I still wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And then I found it. So once I found it and I set my goals on pilot training and made that happen, the rest of my career, I mean, like I have some brethren in our Colonel Files back there right now. I flew with him many times. Once we got that point in our careers, and like that's just part of the job, all the deployments. You're not there just to for the notoriety or you're there because the government said so. But what we did take from that was giving back. And I gave back in a way with air shows was my way of showing off what we all did. It was cool giving that back to the community. And then my number one priority was mentoring other pilot wannabes. Matter of fact, just last week, I got a call from someone at Clarence High School where I live, and I'm apparently the resident pilot in Clarence, New York. So I sit down with these high school kids. I met him and his parents at Tim Hortons and just talked about what his options were to follow the same career path. So I've done the same with a lot of all the kids, and I'll continue to do so. And that's pretty much it. I want to thank everyone for being here, my friends, my family, my daughters, even my ex-wife, sitting next to my current girlfriend, which is super weird. Thank you, former administration faculty and current, and all my Clarence friends right over there. I kicked Joe's ass in golf today, by the way, before we got here. Again, thank you, everybody, and it's pretty cool to be a part of a list like this that I probably don't belong in. Thanks.
Congratulations once again to our honored guests this evening. Before closing, I would like to thank several people who have helped make tonight's ceremony possible. You know, it's surprising how many different moving parts that we have to this. A lot of this was done by students. Let me first start by saying thank you to Mr. Colin Dabkowski in Wax News, in particular Morgan Enser and Campbell Jones, who helped with the video production. I know back there right now, Mikey Johnson, you're back there helping. Thank you, Michael. We appreciate it. Round of applause. I would also like to thank Mr. Eggink and Mr. Turton and the kiddos in Bulldog Manufacturing who have worked to put together our awards tonight. Thank you. I would like to thank Lisa Valentine and tonight Stephanie Moreland for in food service for the reception that will follow immediately afterwards. And then last but not least, Jamie Rapini, who is our high school administrative assistant, who did a ton of work behind the scenes. Couldn't have pulled this off this evening without her. So thank you, Jamie. All right, so following the ceremony, there will be a reception in the Alden. At 6, I'm going to ask that at 6:40, that both candidates please go out to the field. You're going to be an honorary captain for the coin flip. We're also going to present you outside before the game. So if we could, let's just say in about 5 minutes, only because we are really on a tight span, we're going to go out, right outside the door, out to the wall for our unveiling of where they will both be enshrined out here, right outside the door. So if we could be out there in about 5 minutes, that would be good. And then from there, we have a few minutes, and then you guys can go out to the football game. Again, thank you all. Congratulations to both of you, and thank you all for being here this evening.